Stop chasing what you swear is meant for you. That desperation is the very thing pushing it away. Fix this one inner pattern, and destiny starts finding you again. Some people spend years running after love, money, purpose. Like if they don't sprint, they'll miss their one shot. And it's exhausting because deep down you can feel it. The harder you chase, the more life slips through your fingers. Here's the counterintuitive truth Jung points to, without sugarcoating it. What's meant for you doesn't require panic. It requires alignment. The real reason your thing hasn't arrived yet usually isn't bad luck. It's that your unconscious is still protecting you from what your shadow would sabotage. So the solution isn't more force, it's inner work. Cleaning the patterns that make you grab, overthink, settle, or self-destruct the moment something good gets close. And once you fix that, once your inner standard rises and your inner home becomes stable, synchronicity starts showing up like receipts. Opportunities feel less random. People notice you differently. Doors open without you begging them to. Today, you're going to learn exactly how this works and how to become the kind of person destiny can finally stay with, fast, clearly, and without turning your life into a stress marathon. You don't lose what's truly yours. At worst, you postpone it. What's meant for you has a weird habit of circling back like a boomerang with a memory. Carl Jung would say your unconscious doesn't forget what your ego tries to outsmart. And that's why your destiny often returns when you're not forcing it anymore. Not because life is being poetic, but because alignment finally becomes possible. You stop chasing noise, and suddenly you can hear purpose tapping on the window. It's not magic. It's timing meeting readiness, patience meeting inner work. The universe isn't playing hide and seek with you. You were. So when it comes back, it doesn't feel like luck. It feels like recognition. Like your life whispering, there you are, now you can hold it. Here's the part nobody likes to admit. You can't receive with clenched fists. If your nervous system is in fight mode, every gift feels like a threat. So the unconscious waits until you're not starving for it, until surrender is real. That's why you see synchronicity show up after you stop begging for signs. You call it coincidence. Jung calls it meaning meeting you halfway. And yeah, it can feel unfair, like life showed up late to your party. But sometimes late is protection, because you weren't ready at on time. Your shadow, your old fears, your old scripts would have sabotaged the moment. So life delays the delivery until your hands are steady enough to carry it. Because destiny doesn't just arrive, it sticks around only when you've matured. Think about it like this. Your life is a house, and purpose is a guest. If the house is full of junk, resentment, impulsiveness, cheap validation, where does it sit? Your unconscious knows what your mouth won't say, I'm not built for this yet. So it keeps sending the same lesson in different costumes, different people, jobs, heartbreaks. That repetition isn't punishment, it's training for individuation. Individuation is just you becoming one whole person, not 5 masks in a trench coat. And when you start cleaning up, synchronicity gets louder, like the road signs multiply. Not because you're special, because you're finally aligned with what you actually value. The shadow still shows up, sure, but now you recognize its voice. You don't obey it automatically. And that changes everything. Now let's make this practical, because wisdom without action is just fancy decoration. If you keep attracting the same kind of chaos, write down the pattern like a detective. What triggers you, what you tolerate, what you keep explaining away. That's your shadow's routine. Then pick one tiny inner work habit, 10 minutes of journaling, daily, no drama. Use prompts like, what am I avoiding? What do I want but feel unworthy of? If you want structure, try Man and His Symbols, Jung, and The War of Art, Pressfield. If your mind is noisy, do a simple 20-minute walk with no podcast, just you and reality. You'll be shocked how purpose speaks when you stop drowning it in input. And when you get an urge to chase, pause and ask, is this alignment or anxiety? Because impatience often wears a clever disguise. I'm just being proactive. And here's a truth that can sting a little. Sometimes your destiny is waiting on your honesty. Not your hustle, not your vision board, not your one last push. Your unconscious wants congruence, your actions matching your words, your choices matching your purpose. When you keep saying you want peace but date chaos, life takes notes. When you say you want growth but avoid discomfort, your shadow stays in charge. So, destiny keeps circling, like a package marked fragile, refusing to be dropped at your door. It's not cruel, it's careful, because what's yours is supposed to change you. And the moment you stop chasing it like a trophy, it starts finding you like a home. Which brings us to the next tension, because once you sense it returning, you'll feel tempted to run after it again. And that's where topic 2 begins. The moment you sense something is meant for you, your instinct is to sprint. You speed up, you overthink, you start checking your phone like it owes you rent. And without noticing, you turn destiny into a chase scene. Breathless, tense, desperate. Carl Jung would call that the ego hijacking the process to feel in control. But here's the twist. What's meant for you usually doesn't arrive through panic. It arrives when you're in alignment, when you've got space inside to actually receive. Because chasing isn't love. Chasing is fear wearing a motivational hoodie, and your unconscious can tell the difference immediately. That's why purpose doesn't land in a stormy mind. It waits for calmer weather. Not to tease you, but to keep you from dropping what you prayed for. Picture a butterfly for a second. Classic metaphor, but it works because it's true. If you sprint after it, it doesn't become yours. It becomes gone. But if you sit still, if you make the place safe, it might come close on its own. That's how destiny works when you stop treating it like prey. Synchronicity shows up more often when you stop gripping life by the throat. And patience, real patience, isn't passive. It's disciplined surrender. It's you saying, I'm doing my inner work, and I'm not forcing the outcome. The shadow hates this because it can't control it, so it whispers, move, do something. But sometimes the most powerful move is to become steady, to become the kind of person who can hold what's coming without flinching. Now let's get concrete, because stop chasing can sound like a cute quote on a mug. It doesn't mean you do nothing. It means you stop doing frantic, self-betraying things. You stop texting first when your gut says, this is not it. You stop taking jobs that crush your soul just because they flatter your ego. You stop buying approval like it's a subscription service. And instead, you build the inner home, boundaries, self-respect, clarity, rhythm. Try this. Before you say yes to anything, ask, does this support my purpose or my fear? That one question exposes your shadow like bright light in a dark room. If it's fear, you'll feel tight and rushed. If it's alignment, you'll feel clear, even if it's scary. Clarity isn't always comfortable, but it's always cleaner than chaos, and destiny loves a clean signal. Think of it like tuning a radio. You can't force a station by yelling at the speaker. Trust me, I've tried in my head. You tune the dial, you remove static, you adjust your frequency. That's what inner work is, reducing the noise so your unconscious can guide you. And the weird part, once you tune yourself, destiny starts sounding louder. You notice opportunities you used to ignore. You feel pulled toward healthier choices. You start seeing synchronicity, not as proof, but as confirmation. Jung's point wasn't, the universe will spoil you. It was, your inner world shapes your outer world. So if your outer life keeps rejecting you, don't just fight the world. Check the dial, check the patterns, check the shadow scripts you keep replaying. Here's a practical, become the place it can land routine that actually works in real life. Every morning, do a 3-minute alignment check. What matters today, what doesn't. Then pick one action that matches your purpose. A hard conversation, a workout, a skill session. If you need a map, read Atomic Habits, James Clear for systems, and keep Jung close for meaning. At night, write one line. Where did I chase today, and where did I choose alignment? No judgment, just awareness. Awareness is the start of individuation. And if you're stuck in a spiral, cut one source of noise, doom scrolling, gossip, that almost right distraction. Because destiny isn't attracted to your performance. It's attracted to your integrity, to who you are when nobody's clapping. And once you start becoming that person, you'll face the next challenge. Your shadow doesn't disappear, it tests you, which is exactly where topic 3 is waiting. Let's be honest, your biggest problem usually isn't bad luck. It's your shadow driving the car while you swear you're the one steering. Carl Jung used shadow to describe the parts of you you avoid, deny, or dress up as just how I am. And here's the wild part. The shadow doesn't only create pain, it also blocks destiny. Not because life is petty, but because your unconscious protects you from what you'd sabotage. So when you wonder why the right thing keeps slipping away, look closer. Maybe it didn't slip. Maybe your shadow shoved it, because what's meant for you can find you, but it can't stay if you're unsafe to yourself. That's why blessings sometimes arrive then vanish, like water through open fingers. The issue isn't the blessing, it's the grip. Your shadow is sneaky, like a friend who just wants what's best for you while ruining your plans. It shows up as overthinking, self-sabotage, people-pleasing, control, perfectionism, procrastination, and it always has a believable excuse. I'm protecting you, I'm being realistic, I'm just careful, but protection becomes a prison when it keeps you from growth. If you've been hurt before, your shadow learns a strategy. Avoid vulnerability at all costs. So when love approaches, you get suspicious. When opportunity appears, you hesitate. You call it intuition, but sometimes it's fear with good vocabulary. Jung warned that what you don't make conscious will run your life like fate. So destiny keeps circling, and your shadow keeps slamming the door. Then you blame the world for the draft. Here's a metaphor you'll feel in your bones. Imagine you finally get the keys to a beautiful house, but the rooms are full of smoke from old fires you never cleaned up. You walk in, cough, and say, "This house isn't for me." No, this house is yours, but your unhealed shadow makes it feel dangerous. That's what happens when good things show up and your nervous system screams, "Nope." Your body remembers what your mind tries to forget. So you sabotage the job, you pick a fight in the relationship, you quit at 80% progress. Not because you're lazy, because your shadow is allergic to change. Change threatens the identity you built to survive, and individuation means you stop surviving and start becoming. Now, let's make it practical, because you can't outthink the shadow, you have to outgrow it. Start with a shadow inventory. Sounds intense, but it's just honesty with the notebook. Write 3 things you keep repeating that hurt you. A toxic pattern, a money mistake, a relationship loop. Then ask, what do I get from this? Yeah, you get something. Attention, control, numbness, familiarity. That benefit is the shadow's payment. It keeps you stuck, but it feels safe. Next, pick one replacement behavior that supports alignment. One boundary, one routine, one brave act. If you struggle with people-pleasing, practice saying, "Let me think about it," before any yes. If you self-sabotage with distractions, put your phone in another room for a 45-minute deep work block. And if you want to go deeper, read Man and His Symbols, Jung, for meaning, and The Mountain Is You, Brianna Wiest, for patterns. That's inner work with both depth and daily tools. And here's the emotional truth. Your shadow doesn't hate you. It's terrified for you. It was built in moments when you didn't have better options. So don't treat it like an enemy. Treat it like a scared child with sharp teeth. You don't let it run your life, but you don't shame it into hiding either. You notice it, name it, breathe, and choose alignment anyway. Because destiny is attracted to courage, not confidence. Courage is doing the right thing while your shadow complains the whole time. And the moment you do that, synchronicity starts to shift. You'll see new doors because you stopped being loyal to old fear. But there's a catch. Once you're changing, life will start speaking in signs, patterns, coincidences, and you'll need to understand what that really means, which is exactly where topic 4 begins. There's a moment that feels almost spooky when life starts replying to your thoughts. You think of someone, they text, you consider a new path, an unexpected door opens, and part of you wants to call it magic, like the universe is finally clapping for you. Carl Jung had a cleaner word for it: synchronicity, not superstition, meaningful coincidence. The outer world echoing the inner shift. It's like your unconscious quietly rearranged the furniture, and now your life flows differently. But here's the key. Synchronicity isn't a prize for being spiritual. It's a signal that alignment is happening. Your purpose and your choices are getting closer. And once you recognize it, your destiny feels less like a mystery and more like a pattern. A pattern you can learn to follow without losing your mind. Think of synchronicity like GPS recalculating. When you keep ignoring the route, the voice doesn't scream, it just reroutes again and again. That's your unconscious, patient but persistent. When you start doing inner work, real inner work, not positive vibes only, you stop taking the same wrong exits. And suddenly, the GPS goes quiet because you're finally on the road. That's when coincidences multiply. Not because the world became magical overnight, because you became available. You started noticing what you used to miss. You stopped chasing distractions and you started recognizing the breadcrumbs. Jung would say, when the inner world and the outer world line up, meaning appears. It's not the universe spoiling you, it's your life becoming readable. Now let's get practical, because signs are useless if you don't know how to interpret them. Synchronicity is not a substitute for judgment. It's a nudge, not a contract. So here's a simple filter. Does this sign push you toward growth or toward escape? If it pushes you toward honesty, responsibility, courage, lean in. That's alignment. If it pushes you toward obsession, dependence, fantasy, your shadow is probably dressing up again. Example, you see repeated messages about discipline and you feel called to build a routine. That's purpose knocking. But if you see a sign and you quit your job impulsively with zero plan, that's not destiny, it's adrenaline. And adrenaline is a terrible life coach. So treat synchronicity like a compass, not a steering wheel. It shows direction, but you still have to walk. Here's a metaphor that lands. Imagine your life is a dark room and you're holding a flashlight. Where you point it becomes your reality. When you're anxious, you point it at threats, so you find threats everywhere. When you're aligned, you point it at possibilities, so you start spotting opportunities you used to overlook. Synchronicity is the moment the room seems to light up, but the truth is, you changed where you aimed. That's why two people can live in the same city, same economy, same year, yet one sees doors and the other sees walls. Not because one is luckier, but because one is clearer. Clarity is a form of power. It's quiet, but it's surgical. And destiny loves surgical minds because they don't confuse chaos with excitement. They can tell the difference between a sign and a trap. Try this exercise for 7 days. Simple, but it'll sharpen your intuition like a blade. Every day, write down one synchronicity, a repeated word, a random encounter, a pattern that stood out. Then write 2 interpretations, one from alignment, one from shadow. Alignment interpretation. What brave action is this pointing to? Shadow interpretation. What comfort fantasy is my fear trying to justify? You'll start seeing how often your shadow tries to hijack meaning. If you want a book that trains this skill, read The Signal and the Noise, Nate Silver, for pattern thinking, and keep Jung nearby for depth. Also, reduce noise. 1 hour less scrolling creates space for synchronicity to be heard, because sometimes destiny is whispering and your phone is yelling. And here's the emotional punch. Synchronicity is often life-testing if you'll trust yourself, not trust the universe like a cute quote. Trust your own alignment. Because the moment doors open, you'll feel pressure to rush, to prove, to grab, and that's where timing gets tricky. You'll want the reward now, fast, because you've waited so long. But if you run too hard, you can turn meaning into mess. So synchronicity doesn't just guide you, it also exposes your impatience. And the next thing you'll need to understand is this: timing isn't punishment, it's protection. Because not everything that finds you is ready to stay, and not everything you want is safe to receive today. Topic 5 is where that truth hits. When something you want doesn't arrive, your first instinct is to blame yourself. You think you're behind, broken, forgotten, not chosen, not lucky, not enough. But that story is usually your shadow talking, because shame loves a microphone. Carl Jung would nudge you toward a different frame. Timing isn't punishment, it's protection. What's meant for you doesn't just have to reach you, it has to reach the right version of you, because the wrong timing can ruin the right thing. A blessing too early becomes a burden, a door too early becomes a trap, and destiny isn't interested in giving you a gift you'll drop. So life stalls, delays, reroutes, while you think you're failing, when in reality your unconscious is training you to carry what's coming. Think of timing like cooking. You can turn up the heat, sure, but you don't get a better meal, you get a burned one. Impatience is basically you trying to eat raw dough because you're hungry. And yeah, you can do it, but you won't like the outcome. That's how relationships break, careers collapse, and opportunities get wasted. Not because the opportunity was wrong, but because your readiness was immature. So timing is the oven, patience is the temperature, inner work is the recipe. And when you keep opening the oven door to check, you slow the whole process down. Your ego wants proof right now. Your purpose wants formation. And formation is rarely fast, but it's always worth it. Let's bring it to real life, because your brain needs receipts. Have you ever gotten what you begged for, then realized it would have destroyed you a year earlier? The relationship you couldn't handle because you hadn't healed your trust wounds. The money you would have wasted because you didn't know how to manage it. The status you craved that would have fed your ego and starved your soul. That's timing protecting you from becoming a stranger to yourself. And Jung would say, what you call delay is often individuation in progress. Life is shaping your character so you don't abandon your values when the reward appears. Because the real test isn't getting it, it's keeping it without losing yourself. And destiny isn't cruel, it's careful. Here's a practical tool, the readiness audit. Ask yourself 3 questions and don't be cute with the answers. 1. If this arrived today, what part of my shadow would sabotage it? 2. What habit would I need to keep it stable for 90 days? 3. What boundary would protect it from old patterns? Then pick one small action that builds readiness, a budget, a routine, a skill, a hard conversation. If it's money, start with The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel, and build a simple plan. Automate savings, kill high-interest debt, track spending weekly. If it's focus, try a 30-day deep work block, 45 minutes daily, same time, phone away. If it's relationships, practice saying the truth kindly, because alignment dies in half-truths. Readiness isn't a feeling, it's a structure. And here's the emotional pivot that changes everything. Delays can be invitations, not denials. They force you to build a life that doesn't collapse without the thing you want. They teach you to stand alone without becoming lonely. They teach you to trust the process without turning passive. And once you learn that, you stop begging the world and start partnering with it. You become patient without becoming numb. You become ambitious without becoming frantic. You start seeing synchronicity as a rhythm, not a lottery ticket. But there's still a deeper layer. Even when timing is right, life often repeats lessons until you stop resisting. That's when you realize something uncomfortable. What you resist will keep finding you. And that's exactly where topic 6 pulls you next. You can run from a lesson, but you can't outrun your own patterns. Life is patient like that, almost annoyingly patient. If you avoid a truth, it doesn't disappear. It simply changes costumes and shows up again. Different job, same boss energy. Different relationship, same fight. Different city, same loneliness. And you keep thinking, why does this always happen to me? Because your unconscious is trying to make you conscious. Carl Jung warned that what you don't face becomes fate, like a movie on repeat until you finally watch it. That's what resistance does. It keeps the same door locked and life keeps knocking. Not to punish you, but to wake you up before you waste another decade. And when you finally get it, you'll realize the lesson wasn't chasing you. You were carrying it. Resistance is sneaky because it can look like being busy. You call it productivity, but it's actually avoidance with a calendar. You clean the house, you answer emails, you start 10 projects, anything except the one thing that scares you. That's the shadow's favorite trick, keep you moving so you don't feel. Because feeling would force you into inner work, and inner work would change your identity. So you resist therapy, resist boundaries, resist rest, resist commitment, resist honesty. Then the same pain returns, louder, like life turning up the volume. At first it whispers, then it taps, then it kicks the door. Not because destiny is dramatic, because you didn't respond to the quiet version. And the longer you resist, the more expensive the lesson becomes. Here's a metaphor that makes it simple. Resisting a lesson is like holding a beach ball underwater. You can do it for a while, sure, but your arms get tired. And the moment you slip, that ball shoots up and smacks you in the face. That smack is your sudden breakdown, your unexpected breakup, your random burnout. It wasn't random. You were holding it down the whole time. The unconscious keeps pressure on what you suppress. So the question isn't how do I avoid pain, it's what am I refusing to learn? Because the fastest way to peace is to stop wrestling the truth. Surrender isn't weakness, it's the end of a needless fight. And alignment begins the moment you stop arguing with reality. Let's make it practical, because you can turn this into a real strategy. Pick one pattern that keeps repeating: money chaos, toxic love, procrastination, people-pleasing, anger. Now write this sentence. The lesson I keep resisting is fill it in without sugarcoating. I resist responsibility. I resist disappointment. I resist being alone. Then ask, what's the payoff of resisting? Again, there's always a payoff. Maybe you avoid rejection. Maybe you avoid effort. Maybe you avoid choosing so you can't be blamed. Now choose one small exposure exercise, one action that faces the lesson in a safe dose. If it's money, track every purchase for 7 days. No judgment, just data. Your shadow hates data. If it's conflict, practice one boundary line. I can't do that, or that doesn't work for me. If it's focus, do 20 minutes of the task you avoid most. Set a timer, start ugly, build momentum. You're not fixing your life in a day, you're breaking the spell of avoidance. And here's the emotional truth. Resistance often comes from fear of losing who you used to be. If you heal, you might outgrow people. If you get disciplined, you might disappoint the old you. If you choose purpose, you might have to stop chasing approval. That's why resistance is seductive. It protects the identity you built to survive. But individuation asks for a trade. Comfort for freedom, familiar pain for new growth. And once you stop resisting, synchronicity shifts. New options appear because you're no longer stuck in the same loop. Yet the next challenge is subtle. Even when you stop resisting, you still have to choose, because destiny responds to decisions, not wishes. And that's where topic 7 steps in. You're about to see how your smallest choices quietly reshape your future. Wishing is easy. Decisions are expensive. And most people stay stuck because they keep paying in wishes instead of paying in choices. They say they want purpose, but they choose comfort. They say they want peace, but they choose chaos. They say they want freedom, but they choose habits that chain them to the same old life. That's not a character flaw, it's just unconscious living. Carl Jung would say the unconscious loves default settings. If you don't choose, your shadow will choose for you, and your shadow always chooses what's familiar, not what's aligned. So destiny doesn't ignore you, your decisions simply keep sending a different message. Life replies to what you do, not what you daydream. Think of your life like a vote. Every choice is a ballot cast for the person you're becoming. One donut won't ruin you, and one gym session won't save you. Relax. But the direction of your votes, that's everything. If you keep voting for procrastination, you'll eventually live in a procrastinator's world. If you keep voting for discipline, you'll slowly build a disciplined life that feels almost unfair to others. That's how alignment becomes real. Not through big speeches, but through repeated decisions. Individuation is basically you learning to vote for your true self more often than your false self. And the moment you start doing that, synchronicity doesn't feel random, it feels earned, because the world loves to collaborate with someone who's finally consistent. Now, here's the trap. People think decisions must feel confident. Nope. Most of your best decisions will feel shaky at first. Courage isn't a vibe, it's a behavior. A decision is you saying, I'm doing this even if my shadow complains. That's why so many people wait for motivation and end up waiting forever. Motivation is like a flaky friend. Fun when it shows up, unreliable when you need it. Decisions are sturdier. Decisions build identity, and identity is the engine behind destiny. When you decide, you stop negotiating with your fear. You start living like your life matters, because it does. Let's get practical with a decision ladder you can actually use. Step 1. Choose one area where you want change. Health, money, relationships, focus. Step 2. Pick one decision that is small enough to do daily and meaningful enough to matter. Example, money. Set an auto transfer to savings on payday. Small, boring, powerful. Example, focus. 45 minutes of deep work each morning before you touch social media. Example, health. Walk 20 minutes after dinner. Easy, consistent, life-changing over time. Example, relationships. Stop explaining your boundaries. State them once, kindly, then act accordingly. If you want a simple framework, read Atomic Habits, James Clear, and treat your daily decisions like bricks. A brick a day feels like nothing until you look back and realize you built a house. That's destiny. Slow construction, not sudden miracles. Here's a comparison that hits. Your mind is like a courtroom. Your shadow is the loud lawyer arguing for comfort, excuses, and later. Your purpose is the quiet judge who only cares about truth. Every time you choose alignment, you strengthen the judge. Every time you choose avoidance, you give your shadow the microphone. And the more you delay, the more your life starts feeling like it's happening to you. But when you decide, life starts feeling like it's happening through you. That shift is power. Not loud power, calm power. And calm power is what makes people unstoppable. Because they don't need drama to move. They move because they decided. Now, you might be thinking, okay, but what if I choose wrong? Fair fear. But indecision is also a choice, and it's usually the worst one. Most people don't fail because they chose wrong. They fail because they never chose fully. So make decisions that match your values, then adjust as you learn. Like steering a ship. A ship can't be steered while it's parked. Movement creates feedback. Feedback creates growth, and growth creates alignment. But here's the next challenge. Even good decisions can be hijacked by distractions that are almost right. They look close enough to destiny to fool you. And that's exactly where topic 8 is waiting, because the trap of almost right is one of the most dangerous places your shadow can hide. The enemy of your destiny isn't always something obviously terrible. Sometimes it's something that feels close enough, a maybe, a kinda, a good for now. And that's why it's so dangerous. It doesn't scare you away, it slowly sedates you. It whispers, "This is fine," while it quietly steals years from you. Your shadow loves almost right because it keeps you comfortable and unchallenged. It lets you avoid the risk of real alignment while still feeling like you're making progress. Jung would say the unconscious notices when you settle, because settling is a form of self-betrayal, and self-betrayal blocks synchronicity faster than bad luck ever could. So the trap isn't just choosing the wrong door, it's choosing the door that looks safe enough to stop you searching. That's how people end up living lives that are okay and secretly unbearable. Almost right shows up in relationships as chemistry without respect. In careers, it shows up as stability without purpose. In habits, it shows up as productivity without progress, busy, exhausted, but strangely stuck. And the worst part, it doesn't feel like failure, it feels like adulthood. You tell yourself, I shouldn't be picky, I should be grateful, this is just how life is. And sure, gratitude is healthy. But gratitude isn't supposed to make you small. If you keep shrinking to fit your circumstances, you'll call it maturity. But it's fear in a suit. Your unconscious knows when you're playing it safe to avoid disappointment. And when you do that, destiny keeps knocking, but quieter, because you keep pretending not to hear it. That's not punishment. That's your own choices turning down the volume. Here's a metaphor that makes it crystal clear. Almost right is like drinking salt water. You're thirsty, so you drink, and for a second you feel relief. But the more you drink, the thirst gets worse, and you don't know why. That's what almost right does to the soul. It gives you temporary comfort, then deepens the hunger for something real. And if you ignore that hunger long enough, you stop trusting yourself. You start believing you're asking too much. But the truth is you're asking for alignment. Your nervous system wants integrity. Jung's whole point is that wholeness isn't optional. If you don't move toward individuation, you'll feel restless even in a good life. Now let's make it practical, because you can spot almost right like a pro. Use the 3 questions filter before you commit to anything major. 1. Does this expand me or shrink me? 2. Does this bring me peace or just relief? 3. Would my future self thank me or tolerate me? Relief is not peace. Relief is the feeling you get when the pressure stops. Peace is the feeling you get when you're aligned with your values. A job can give relief, paycheck, but drain peace, your spirit. A relationship can give relief, attention, but destroy peace, your self-respect. So don't confuse comfort with destiny. Comfort is easy to buy. Purpose is earned through decisions. If you struggle with clarity, read Essentialism, Greg McKeown, to learn the art of choosing what truly matters, and then practice one tiny thing daily. Say no to one almost right distraction. Here's a real-life example. Someone says they want financial freedom but keeps upgrading lifestyle. New car, new phone, new subscriptions, salt water. It feels like progress, but it's actually a leash with a shiny bow. So a practical move would be cancel 3 subscriptions today, automate savings, and set a 48-hour rule before any impulse purchase. Or, if you want growth but you keep hanging with people who mock discipline, stop negotiating. Change your environment. Join a gym class, a local running group, a book club with ambitious people. Read The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel, if you want your decisions to stop being emotional landmines. Because destiny isn't allergic to fun, it's allergic to self-sabotage disguised as treating yourself. Your shadow will call it self-care, your purpose will call it avoidance, and your unconscious will keep score. Now for the emotional punch. Almost right is where dreams go to die politely. Not with tragedy, with comfort, with routine, with a calendar full of obligations. It's the quiet death of potential, and it looks normal from the outside. That's why this trap is so common. Nobody warns you because it's socially approved. But inside, you feel that low-level ache, that whisper, "This isn't it." That whisper is your unconscious trying to protect you from a life that fits everyone but you. And if you listen, you'll start raising your inner standard. Because your inner standard sets the price. You'll realize you don't just want the thing, you want to be the person who can keep it. Which brings us to topic 9, because once you stop settling, life tests your integrity, and your standards decide whether destiny stays or slips away again. You don't get what you want, you get what you tolerate, and that sentence hits hard, because it's usually true. Your inner standard is the invisible line that tells life what's acceptable in your world. Not what you say you deserve, what you consistently allow. Carl Jung would say your unconscious learns your standard by watching your behavior, not listening to your affirmations. So if you keep tolerating disrespect, chaos, half-effort, and self-betrayal, destiny gets a message. This is okay. And then you wonder why the same low-quality situations keep finding you. It's not a curse, it's alignment with a standard you didn't consciously choose. The moment you raise that standard, your whole life starts to renegotiate with you. And yeah, it can feel uncomfortable at first, because your shadow will fight back. Your shadow hates high standards, because high standards demand change. If you raise the standard, you can't keep doing what you've been doing. You can't keep saying yes to what drains you. You can't keep numbing out with distractions and calling it relaxing. You can't keep picking the same type of person and acting surprised by the same outcome. That's why raising your standard isn't a motivational quote. It's an identity shift. It's individuation in action, becoming one whole person who doesn't split into what I want and what I accept. And the crazy part? When you raise your standard, synchronicity often increases. Not because you're manifesting harder, but because you're finally aligned with your values. Life can move with you when you stop moving against yourself. Here's a metaphor you'll remember. Your standard is like the price tag on your time. If your time is priced cheap, everybody shops there. People dump their problems on you. Employers overwork you. Relationships take without giving. And you keep paying the cost with your peace. But when you raise the price, through boundaries, through self-respect, cheap behavior can't afford you anymore. Some people will complain. That's normal. A discount store doesn't like when you stop being on sale. But destiny often requires that shift, because what's meant for you needs space to enter. You can't fill your life with almost right and expect fully aligned to squeeze in. Your inner standard creates the room. Now let's go practical, because standards need actions, not speeches. Start with one non-negotiable in each area: health, money, relationships, focus. Health: I walk 20 minutes daily, no excuses. Money: I don't spend money I don't track. Relationships: I don't stay where respect isn't mutual. Focus. I do one deep work block before scrolling. Write those down like a contract with yourself. Then reinforce it with a simple system. Calendar reminders, auto-savings, meal prep, phone limits. If you want a strong tool for boundaries, read Boundaries, Henry Cloud and John Townsend. If you want a mindset shift that's simple and powerful, revisit Essentialism, Greg McKeown. And when your shadow says, that's too much, respond, no, that's the minimum for alignment, because your standard is how you protect your destiny from your old self. Here's a real-world example. You want financial freedom, but you keep financing lifestyle. Your standard is, I buy comfort now and pay later. Raise it. I live below my means, automate investing, and protect my future. We start with basics. Build an emergency fund, kill high-interest debt, invest consistently in broad index funds, like an S&P 500 index fund, if that fits your plan. Or in relationships, you want real love, but you accept inconsistent effort because attention feels like relief. Raise the standard. Consistency is required. Then act like you mean it. Stop rewarding flaky behavior with access. Your standard becomes real when it costs you something. It might cost you convenience, a toxic connection, an old habit, a familiar identity. But that cost is the price of individuation, the price of becoming, and destiny respects a person who pays that price. Now for the emotional punch. A higher standard can feel lonely at first, because you're no longer available for what used to fill your time. You stop chasing, you stop settling, you stop rescuing people who don't rescue themselves. And there's a quiet space that opens up, almost like silence after a loud song ends. That silence isn't emptiness, it's room, it's preparation, it's protection. It's the inner home getting ready for something real. And that leads directly to the final lesson. You don't just raise your standard, you prepare the inner home so what finds you can stay. Because destiny can arrive, but if the house isn't ready, it won't last. That's topic 10, prepare the inner home. If what you want showed up tonight, could you actually keep it? Not receive it for a day, keep it, protect it, live up to it. Because destiny doesn't just require desire, it requires capacity. Capacity is the inner space where good things can land without triggering sabotage. Carl Jung would say, your unconscious won't hand you a gift, your shadow will immediately destroy. So the final stage of alignment is preparation, making the inner home livable. Not perfect, real, stable, honest, clean enough for growth to stay. And this is where most people get stuck because they want the outcome more than the transformation. But the transformation is the price of the outcome. And once you pay it, what's meant for you doesn't just find you, it stays. Think of your inner home like a nervous system with a front door. If your front door is always slammed by anxiety, every opportunity feels like intrusion. If your home is full of old junk, resentment, guilt, shame, unresolved grief, there's no room for purpose. So you end up manifesting things you can't sustain. Quick wins, short-lived relationships, bursts of motivation. Then you call yourself inconsistent when really you're just unprepared. Preparation is not glamorous, it's routine, it's boundaries, it's recovery. It's you learning to regulate your emotions instead of letting your shadow hijack the steering wheel. It's you building the kind of stability that makes destiny feel safe to remain. Because destiny isn't just about what happens, it's about who you become when it happens. And if you don't become, you'll lose it the moment it arrives. Here's a metaphor that makes it painfully clear. Your life is a container. If the container has cracks, anything you pour in leaks out. Love, money, opportunity, peace. Those cracks are patterns: self-sabotage, avoidance, people-pleasing, impulsive spending, reactive anger. So the inner homework is patching cracks, not dreaming about bigger pores. You don't need a new life, you need a sturdier self. And that self is built with boring, repeatable habits. That's why individuation looks less like a lightning bolt and more like a daily practice. It's choosing alignment when nobody's watching. It's showing up for your purpose on ordinary days, not just in emotional moments. Because ordinary days are where destiny decides if you're stable. Now, let's make it practical with an inner home checklist you can actually do. 1. Clarity. Write your top 3 values on paper, then audit your week. Do your choices match them? 2. Regulation. Learn one calming tool. Box breathing, 4 to 4, 4 to 4, or a 10-minute body scan before bed. 3. Boundaries. Choose one boundary you've avoided. I can't do that, not today. That doesn't work for me. 4. Structure. Pick one anchor routine. Morning walk, gym, 3x week, Sunday planning, daily journaling. 5. Noise reduction. 1 hour daily with no phone, no input, so your unconscious can speak. If you want books that help with this container work, Atomic Habits, James Clear for Systems, The Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel, If Money is Your Crack, and Jung's Man and His Symbols for Meaning. And yes, start small. Tiny actions build the nervous system's trust. Your shadow will roll its eyes, but your destiny will notice. Here's a real-world example that connects. You want better relationships, so you prepare by becoming emotionally safer. That means you stop testing people, stop ghosting, stop punishing with silence. You learn to speak plainly. When this happens, I feel this. What I need is this. You practice repair instead of drama. That's inner work in action, or with money. You don't just wish for wealth. You create a container for it. You build an emergency fund, automate investing, track spending weekly, and stop using buying as therapy. You treat your future self like someone you actually care about. Because financial destiny doesn't come from one big win. It comes from consistent decisions that match your values. And when your container gets stronger, life can pour more in without chaos. Now, the emotional truth. Preparing the inner home can feel like loneliness before it feels like peace, because you're letting go of old coping mechanisms that kept you distracted. You stop chasing, you stop settling, you stop resisting, and suddenly the silence is loud. But that silence is not emptiness. It's space, it's alignment. It's the beginning of real purpose. It's the moment synchronicity becomes clear because you're no longer drowning in noise. And in that space, something starts to feel inevitable, not forced, not frantic, inevitable, like destiny moving toward you at a steady pace. And now that all the pieces are in place, there's one thing left: to open this entire story with a hook that hits in the first 10 seconds. Because once you hear it, you'll recognize the truth you've been living all along. Now it's on you. And I say that with respect, because you're not powerless here. If everything that's meant for you will find you, then your job isn't to chase. It's to become findable. To stop living on emotional autopilot. To stop letting your shadow negotiate your standards. Because destiny doesn't reward intensity, it rewards alignment, it rewards integrity, it rewards the person who can hold what they asked for. So here's what I want you to do. Simple, practical, no drama. Pick one pattern you know is blocking you right now. 1, not 10. Is it procrastination, people-pleasing, impulsive spending, settling for almost right? Then choose one daily action that builds your inner home. A boundary, a routine, a deep work block, a walk, a budget check, a journaling prompt. Do it for 7 days. Not because 7 is magic, but because consistency is how your unconscious starts trusting you. And let me provoke you a little, because you need it. How long are you going to keep calling it timing when it's really avoidance? How long are you going to say you want purpose while choosing comfort every day? What are you tolerating that is quietly training your life to stay small? And if what you want arrived tonight, would you protect it, or would your shadow destroy it by morning? Drop a comment and tell me one thing. What's the main pattern you're done repeating? And also tell me where you're watching from, because I read those and I want to know how far this message is traveling. If you want more mentor-level psychology, clarity, and real inner work you can actually apply, subscribe to Mind's Silent Echo and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next lesson, because what's meant for you will find you. But you still have to meet it as the person you were meant to become.